What? They can download my tachograph remote? They don't even need to stop me? They can analyze and download my tachograph data? Can I get a fine? And they don't even tell me what's the problem with my tachograph data? How does it work? Or what's the story with this remote tachograph inspection? Before you throw your key away, just check this video and I will explain exactly how does it work. First of all, what you have to know, the tachograph and the requirements for the construction, testing, installation, operation, and repair of tachograph just regulated here. This is the EU RLEX page, and this is the EU regulation number 799 from 2016. And every single part of the tachograph just regulated in this law. And the first thing, there are two options, there are two cases that officers and the authority can download the data from the tachograph. The first one, when they have a roadside detector, a roadside device, and when the truck is passing, of course, in the meantime, they have the chance to download the data. The second method and the second case is when the authority and the officers has a mobile unit, a mobile detector. In this case, they have a little bit more time to download the data from the truck. Okay, let's check the definitions. So there is a remote communication facility in the tachograph. This is the equipment of the vehicle unit, which is used to perform targeted roadside checks. And on the other side, they have the remote early detection communication reader. So that's the reader device. That is the system used by control officers for targeted roadside checks. And the most important verb is the targeted. Let's see how does it work. Technically, when the ignition is on, the vehicle unit shall store every 60 seconds in the remote communication facility the most recent data necessary for the purpose of targeted roadside checks. The data to be checked remotely shall be available to remote communication readers through wireless communication as specified in Appendix 14. We are talking about a wireless communication, that's true, and we can see now how does it work, but the question is what kind of data can they download? Okay, and it's just a brief overview what kind of data they can download, but we will see that in details soon. So basically, the latest security breach, the longest power supply interruption, sensor fault, motion data error, vehicle motion conflict, driving without a valid card insertion by driving, time adjustment data, calibration data, vehicle registration number, speed recorded by the tachograph, vehicle position, an indication if the driver may currently infringe the driving times. That will be an interesting one, but we will see that later. The answer is here. As I mentioned before, the good question and the most important question is, if they really want to give you a fine, do they have to stop the truck or not? And the answer is here. It is important to comprehend that this functionality is intended to serve only as a pre-filter in order to select vehicles for closer inspection. And it does not replace the formal inspection process as determined in the provision of regulation 165 from 2014. So the answer is no. They don't have the right to give you a fine without stopping the truck. You can see that now, and this is the regulation, they can use this functionality as a pre-filter to select which vehicles they really want to stop and physically check the driver and the data. Okay, and finally, let's check and let's see one by one what kind of data they can download. I really want to do this quickly because I don't want to create a very long video. So let's see how does it work. Okay, vehicle registration plate, simple as that. Speeding event, okay, but important if the most recent overspeeding event ended within the last 10 days or is still ongoing. Okay, so we're talking about 10 days speeding and we're talking about speeding. Okay, driving without a valid card. That's not a question. If the most recent driving without an appropriate card event ended within the last 10 days or is still ongoing. Valid driver card. If no valid driver card is present in the driver slot of the view, okay, that's again, that's absolutely not a question. You have to use a valid driver card. Card insertion while driving. Again, that's another question, which is not a question. You can't just, of course you can, but that's an error, so don't do that. Don't insert your card while driving. That's another error and they can check it. Motion data error. It's basically it's an error in the tachograph, and if an error shows up in the past 10 days or still ongoing, that could be a reason they will stop you. Vehicle motion conflict. If the most recent vehicle motion conflict event ended within the last 10 days or is still ongoing. What is vehicle motion? Basically, this new kind of tachograph has actually two signals. The tachograph gets a signal from the GPS antenna and of course from the gearbox. And if there is a motion conflict between the two signals, the tachograph will record a vehicle motion conflict. The next one is a second driver card. If a valid co-driver card is present in the view, that goes through to the authority so they can check whether one or two drivers on the board. Current activity, oh, that's a tricky one. If you have other activity than a driving, they will stop you. Okay, the next one is the last session closed. At least one of these that cards has triggered a last card session not correctly closed event. The next one is, again, that's another typical error in the tachograph, the power supply interruption in the last 10 days. Sensor fault, again, that's an tachograph error. Security breach attempt, okay, that's another error in the tachograph. Last calibration, the previous calibration, the date the tachograph connected, okay, and the current speed. That's another tricky one. Just watch out your speed and everything according to the regulation. So no tricky with the speed. Timestamp and time at which the latest authenticated vehicle position was available. That's basically the location, the GPS position of the truck. The next one is the continuous driving time. This value is just encoded, and you can see they can download the data range between 0 and 250, and the value of 250 shall indicate that the continuous driving time of the driver is equal or greater than 500 minutes. You know that 500 minutes, it's way more than 4.5 hours. So if you break the law and if you try to drive more than 4.5 hours, they can download it and finally they will stop you. Okay, the next one is the longest daily driving time for the ongoing and previous RTM shift. The RTM is the remote shift, that's the remote system. They can download it, so they can download the ongoing and the previous. Now this range from 0 to 250 is and actually 250 will equal or greater than 1000 minutes, because we are talking about shift. Okay, so 1000 minutes, that's definitely more than 9 or 10 hours, because 10 hours is just 600 minutes. So if you're talking about 1000 minutes, that's way more than the 10 hours driving time. Okay, the next one is the longest daily driving time within the ongoing week. So this data is the longest driving time of the ongoing week. If they want to check your longest, let's say, day and driving time from that particular week, they can do that. So if they record more than 600 minutes, then they will definitely stop you. Okay, the next one is the weekly driving time. You can see the data range here. The maximum is 5000 minutes, which is again more than the weekly driving time limit. The weekly driving time limit is 56 hours. Okay, and the next one is fortnightly driving time, and this is the 2 weeks driving time period, and the 2 weeks it could be 90 hours. So if they record, if they download more than 90 hours driving, of course they will stop you. Okay, and as you see, that was the last one. So these are the data. They can download it and they can check it. If you think this video was useful, just please push the like button. And if you want more video like that, just follow the channel, and see you in the next video.